"Put it in writing," Clint Eastwood said. And the room went quiet. Because the check on the table was $15 million, a studio lawyer slid the contract forward like it was a peace offering, like it was inevitable, like a legend was supposed to smile, sign, and say thank you. But Clint didn't reach for the pen. He read one clause, one line, the kind of line most people never notice until it owns them. Crew members recalled he didn't raise his voice, he didn't threaten, he didn't lecture, he just let the silence do the talking. Then he stood up. Not fast, not dramatic, just final. A chair scraped the floor. A producer blinked like he'd been slapped. Someone tried to laugh like it was a negotiation tactic. Clint didn't even look back. He walked away from $15 million over one clause. And the question in that room, hanging like cigarette smoke in a closed office, was simple. What could possibly be worth more than $15 million? Stay with this story, because what happened next didn't just change a deal. It changed who ran the movie and who didn't. To understand why that moment mattered, you have to understand what Clint Eastwood represented to Hollywood. By the time he became a director, by the time he ran films through his own company, he wasn't just an actor with a famous squint. He was a man who built a reputation on one word: independence, the guarded solitude, the refusal to be molded. A career shaped by doing the work, then leaving the room before anyone could argue with the result. The New Yorker. This story lives in that world, the mid to late era of Eastwood's power, when studios loved him, because he delivered movies fast, quiet, and, most important, on budget. Executives didn't have to babysit him. They didn't have to fly in creative teams. They didn't have to send daily notes. His company, Malpaso Productions, was built for that. A machine designed to protect one thing: the film itself and the freedom to make it. The New Yorker. So when a major studio set a meeting, high floor, tinted windows, expensive water bottles, it wasn't just about money. It was about control. And in Hollywood, control is never a small detail. It hides in the fine print. Every legend story needs a counterweight. In this one, it isn't a villain twirling a mustache. It's something more believable and more dangerous. A senior studio executive, the kind who doesn't clap at premieres, the kind who doesn't get starstruck, the kind who measures people in deliverables. Industry stories describe a person like this with a few vivid details. First, the confidence. He talks in paragraphs, long, smooth, practiced paragraphs, like he's already won. Second, the paper. He trusts contracts more than handshakes. He trusts clauses more than reputations. Third, the image obsession, posters, trailers, marketability. He worries about the audience the way gamblers worry about odds. And in that meeting, he wasn't really looking at Clint as a filmmaker. He was looking at him as a brand. The executive had numbers, projections, internal research, a release calendar that looked like a battlefield map. He saw competition on every date. To him, Clint wasn't a man who had earned freedom. Clint was a high-value asset that needed protection. Protection meant oversight. Oversight meant power, and power in Hollywood always wants more. The pressure wasn't imaginary. A studio film isn't just art, it's payroll, it's insurance, it's schedule. And Clint's sets were famous for their discipline, quiet, efficient, no wasted motion. So when a studio gets involved, the fears sound reasonable on paper. They'll say, "We can't risk delays. We can't risk controversy. We can't risk a cut that tests badly. We can't risk a headline we don't control." And that's where the clause comes in. Because clauses aren't written for today. They're written for panic. They're written for the moment something goes wrong, when investors start calling, when the press starts sniffing, when a rival studio drops a bigger trailer. The studio offered a huge number, the kind of number designed to shut down resistance. $15 million. But attached to it was the true price, a single clause that quietly shifted the balance of power. Not on set, not in the camera, in the edit, in the final shape of the story. Because in movies, the last person with their hands on the film owns the film. The executive opens friendly. He compliments Clint's legacy. He mentions awards, mentions the trust the studio has in him. He frames the offer like a tribute. Then comes the soft squeeze. a standard clause, a harmless clause, a just-in-case clause, a clause that says the studio can step in if they believe the film is not commercially viable or damaging to the company or inconsistent with market strategy. Those phrases are slippery on purpose. They don't define reality. They define power. Pattern interrupt. The executive smiles and jokes about how everyone signs it, like it's a membership card, like resisting it would be childish. Clint doesn't laugh. He asks for the contract again. He reads slower. Now the executive's tone shifts, still polite, but sharper. He starts talking about the schedule, then about the marketing spend, then about the release window. He explains that the studio will be investing far beyond Clint's paycheck, that they'll be responsible for distribution and publicity, that they can't leave the ending to chance. He tells a story about some other film, some other director, who delivered a brilliant cut that no one understood. And then, with that same smooth voice, he says the quiet threat. This clause protects you, too. That's how power talks when it wants obedience. It calls itself protection. Clint listens. No argument, no speech. He just asks one question. What does final approval mean here? The lawyer answers the way lawyers do, careful and technical. It means the studio can request changes. It means the studio can test versions. It means the studio can decide which cut releases. It means, if they want to, they can take the movie away. The executive leans forward like he's doing Clint a favor. He talks about audiences now. He talks about sensitivity. He talks about tone. He hints that Clint's kind of storytelling, hard edges, moral reckoning, consequence, might need guidance. And that's when the clause stops being legal language and becomes an insult. Because Clint's entire method is built on responsibility, on showing up prepared, on shooting only what's necessary, on making the story land clean and true. The New Yorker. So Clint does something simple. He points to the clause, and he says calmly that it doesn't belong there. The executive chuckles, the kind of chuckle that says, "You'll sign anyway." He slides the pen closer. A pause. Then Clint does the thing no one expects. He pushes the contract back, not aggressively, but like returning a dish he didn't order. He stands. That chair scrape is the loudest sound in the room. The executive finally speaks like he means it, and now he talks in long, ego-filled lines, because ego loves a microphone, even in a private room. He says things like, "Let's be realistic. This is how the industry works now. We're not in the old days. We can't just gamble with a release date because an artist wants to prove a point." He keeps going. "We're offering you a premium because we respect what you've done, but respect doesn't mean we surrender oversight. We have partners, we have shareholders, we have obligations, we have a brand to protect." He takes a breath, then delivers the dagger dressed as wisdom. And frankly, if you believe in the film, you shouldn't fear a clause that only exists to ensure success. The room holds its breath. Because that line is designed to trap you. If you argue, you look defensive. If you agree, you lose control. Clint doesn't argue. He answers in short, final sentences. Controlled, clear, no performance. He says, "It's not your film. It's mine. If you need that clause, you don't trust me. And if you don't trust me, we're done." Silence. Crew members later recalled the way the air felt after that, like the room had shifted, like everyone suddenly remembered who was sitting at the table. Because Clint Eastwood didn't need to shout to win a standoff. He just had to be willing to leave. He turns toward the door. The executive tries one last thing. Money again, bigger numbers, future promises. Clint doesn't stop walking. He reaches the handle. And behind him, the studio finally understands the truth. The clause wasn't a safeguard. It was a leash. And Clint Eastwood didn't wear leashes. Hollywood doesn't love conflict. Hollywood loves leverage. So when word gets around that Clint walked away from a massive offer over a clause, the reaction isn't sympathy. It's calculation. Agents start calling each other, not to gossip, but to measure the temperature. Producers quietly ask, "What clause?" Lawyers reread their templates. Executives wonder which side of the story will reach the trades first. And the studio? The studio does what studios do. They send feelers. They try softer language. They offer creative collaboration instead of approval. Because they know something important. Eastwood's power was never just fame. It was his process. He was known for bringing projects in efficiently, for avoiding chaos, for keeping sets calm, so calm that even noise like walkie-talkies could be discouraged to keep the atmosphere focused. The New Yorker. That kind of discipline saves money. And money is the only language the studio always respects. The ripple spreads further. Younger directors hear the story and learn a painful lesson. You can be celebrated and still be treated like a risk. Veteran crew hear it and nod because they've seen what happens when studios take the cutaway. And Clint? He goes back to what he always built through Malpaso, the quiet infrastructure that lets him make work without begging permission. Malpaso Productions. He doesn't need headlines, he needs ownership. If you want more behind-the-scenes Hollywood stories told like mini-movies, power, pressure, and the quiet choices that define legends, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. Tap like if you respect a person who can walk away from the money to protect the work, and share this with someone who's about to sign something they haven't fully read. One question for you. Drop it in the comments. If you were offered $15 million, what single clause would make you walk away? Hard-hitting final line. Because the most expensive signature you'll ever write is the one that buys your silence. Here's the moral, and it's clean. In Hollywood, and honestly, in life, money is rarely the real offer. The real offer is control. That clause wasn't just about a movie. It was about who gets to decide what the story means. Because if someone can rewrite your ending, they can rewrite your reputation. Clint Eastwood understood something most people learn too late. If you sell your final say, you don't just lose a decision, you lose yourself. His calm exit wasn't arrogance, it was clarity. And whether the number is $15 million or a fraction of that, whether it's a studio boardroom or your own workplace, the principle stays the same. Never sign away the part of you that makes the work honest. Final quote style line. Some deals don't cost your time, they cost your name. If you want more behind-the-scenes Hollywood stories told like mini-movies, power, pressure, and the quiet choices that define legends, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. Tap like if you respect a person who can walk away from the money to protect the work, and share this with someone who's about to sign something they haven't fully read. One question for you. Drop it in the comments. If you were offered $15 million, what single clause would make you walk away? Hard-hitting final line. Because the most expensive signature you'll ever write is the one that buys your silence.